Okay, so guys, when in doubt, call Marika's son for all your technology issues. Just saying. Thank you very much, Stefan. All it was I was sharing a dual screen, and then all of a sudden it stopped doing the sound. So I am just going to ask everybody if you can hear me now. And if you can, just put something in the chat, and my apologies for the dilemma, but I think we have it covered. I think we got it covered. Let's just put in the chat. All is good now. There we go. See, perseverance. I'm telling you, perseverance goes so far. So let's start again with Chef Mark. And thank you all for your patience. It's going to be the most delicious meal ever. So let's get going with Chef Mark, and enjoy, and I'll be checking in regularly. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Medley of mushrooms. And we're going to make a dill cream sauce to start, and then we're going to continue with our other ingredients and make the well with it. The bakeling.
Great. Okay, let's start.
Let's start. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil. A little bit of fresh diced onion.
Okay, about how much diced onion?
About a tablespoon.
Tablespoon? Okay.
A little bit of crushed garlic. Same thing, about 1 tablespoon.
Okay.
And you're going to saute that up. Now, when you saute it, you're going to cook it just until it's translucent. You don't want any color on it. Okay, we just want to sweat it out, get all those flavors to come up, but we don't want to brown it because it's going to be a cream sauce, so you still want it light in texture. So we're just going to let that sweat. Now, usually you'll know when you're ready to go because your onions will become a little bit more clear. They won't be like that opaque color that you normally see. So as soon as they start to become clear, you know you're ready to go. Okay, so now that we've sweated our onions a little bit, we're going to add a little bit of white wine. In recipe, white wine.
Right,
Okay, so same thing because you don't want to change the color of your sauce. So about a cup, you guys can pour a cup into that, pour a cup to yourself. Add a quarter cup of vinegar. And then we add that, we're going to let that reduce by half. Now, when you reduce that by half, what you do is you build those flavors before you add the rest of your components. Once that reduces, now I'm going to add 2 cups of 35% cream, and that is the base for our sauce. And now we're going to let that simmer. We're going to add a pinch of salt.
I know. What just happened? Somebody said full screen, please. And so I went to do full screen, and I've just turned it off. Oh my God, I'm having the worst day ever. Hold on. Now you're seeing all my full screen. Oh, we get to start over again. Let's go forward a little bit here.
Saute that. Now, very, very low simmer.
Okay, I'm getting chubby watching his cooking. There you go, full screen, Marika.
And now we're going to let this reduce. Now, when you're cooking this at home, because it's cream, you have to be very careful because cream can boil over and overflow in your pot. So when you start this, kind of pay attention to it. And once you get it to that boil, then you put on a very, very low simmer, and we're going to basically reduce the sauce until it has that nice consistency. And after that, we're gonna move on and get the rest of the ingredients for our dish ready. So now that my sauce is almost ready, I'm just gonna put it on a lower heat. And we're gonna let that simmer very slowly. Now for the next part, because we're baking this salmon Wellington, we sear it ahead of time because you don't want it just as a raw piece of fish in your pastry and everything like that. So you do sear it, you get a nice golden brown on it, and then we'll wrap it and then bake it. And once the pastry's golden brown, your dish will be done. Okay. So the same thing, you're gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt. You're gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt, just a pinch, a little pinch of pepper. We add a little oil to our pan. And then once your pan is getting hot, you're gonna put the salmon on. So just when that oil starts to smoke, that's when you're ready to go. And then you can put it on. As long as you hear that noise, it's good to go. And then we're just gonna let it sear. Now most people usually when they're cooking, they like to shake the pan and do all that stuff. Just let it do its job. Let that salmon cook. You can adjust it if you're scared. This is where a non-stick pan would be beneficial. Like we use cast iron, but that's because we're used to it. So you can see the fish doesn't stick at all.
Wow.
So we're gonna get that a little bit golden. Let that sear up. And basically you don't want to cook this all the way through because you're still gonna put it in the oven and bake it later at a later date. So you're gonna flip it. You can see it's got that nice color, nice smooth texture. And we're gonna sear that. And then as soon as that's done, we're gonna put it back on our plate and let that cool. Okay, that's ready to go. That's our liquid component. We're gonna take another pan. And now we're gonna saute our mushrooms.
Okay.
So the same thing. A little oil.
What kind of oil is that you're using?
Just regular olive oil.
Okay.
We use olive oil mostly because it's a little bit healthier. It's easier to control. The only thing you have to understand is that when you're cooking with olive oil, it has a very low smoking point. So you have to maintain the temperature, otherwise you can burn the oil.
Okay.
So same thing, we're gonna put a little bit of onion. Saute that up with our mushrooms. Now for this recipe, I picked several types of mushroom. You can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be an expensive mushroom. You can use button mushroom, you can use cremini mushroom, very simple mushrooms. For here, I put some shiitake and cremini.
And how much mushrooms?
I'm gonna do basically about a cup, 2 cups of mushroom. We're gonna saute it down, so it's obviously gonna reduce a little bit.
There we go. We're just going to pause for a second just to make sure everybody's all caught up. Honestly, I'm getting really hungry just sitting here. So I think, yeah, definitely sear. It makes me want to go out and buy cast iron skillets, you guys. I don't know about you, but I feel like I should be cooking with cast iron skillets now instead of my funkity no stick pans. But I love the idea of searing the salmon ahead of time so that it's a nice texture inside the pastry. Yeah, it's amazing to watch them. I have to measure everything out absolutely perfect because I'm not a very creative cook. I'm lucky if I don't burn rice. But this seems to be nice and easy, and he's so easy in the kitchen. I guess that's what happens when you know, that's your profession. Um, so I'm going to give everybody a moment to catch up. And if you could just check in through the chat and let me know it's going okay. And this is something that you're supposed to, you know, the intention was that you guys were going to cook this with your partners or with your families or something like that. My husband and I are actually about to renovate our kitchen because it's not very conducive right now to two people cooking in the kitchen. So we're really looking forward to getting that done. And you know, you have to be well prepared, I think. I'm sitting here watching him thinking, you know, I should have my pans preheated, particularly for the salmon. This guy is fast like Chef Ramsay, he is, but at least he doesn't scream bam like Lagasse does. But boy, you can tell he's very skilled at what he's doing, and it looks so delicious. He seems so comfortable. I'm looking forward to the time when I can go back into a restaurant with my husband and my family and enjoy some really good food. My children had their first experience with a five-star restaurant just before COVID hit, actually. And they keep saying that they want to go back somewhere really nice for really good food. So as soon as we're able, we're going to be knocking down the door at Chef Mark's and getting a delicious meal. So I'll be able to make this though, which is great. So I'm just waiting for everybody to let me know that you're all caught up. So far, I think he does make it look so simple, but you've got the full directions. Hopefully you haven't burned your significant other yet. It does make me envious of a really good stove though. My stove is broken at the moment, guys. I'm actually cooking in a toaster oven. Better, thank you. Okay, so I think we're all caught up. Awesome. And listen, any questions or concerns, just put them in the chat and I'll pause or I'll do whatever it is that you need, okay? All righty. The point here is for you to enjoy. So let's keep going.
And then we're gonna basically chop them up and make a big salad. Now, when you cook with mushrooms, they absorb oil very fast. So if it takes out all the oil from your pan, just add a little bit more olive oil.
Okay.
Just a little drizzle like that, and you can get that saute back up. We're gonna put a little bit of garlic. Same thing, just a little teaspoon. And then you're gonna sweat this. Same thing, you're gonna do it till it's like golden brown. So you want basically just the mushroom to be cooked. If the heat is too high, you can always turn it down and adjust it. And same thing, a little pinch of salt, a little pinch of pepper. And then basically you want to cook it out until your mushroom is like nice and golden. You don't want to see any of this white to the mushroom. That's basically raw stuff. Okay. So for this particular recipe, we're not gonna overcook it, but we're gonna cook it well. So that's what you're looking at. Nice golden brown, everything well cooked in that similar texture. And then you're just gonna remove that from the heat. We're gonna put on a plate. And then the same thing, we're gonna let that cool. So because we're working with the pot pastry, you want all your ingredients cold.
Okay.
Just going to give us a minute just to make sure everybody's got their mushrooms all done. I love mushrooms, so that is my idea of heaven, perfectly done mushrooms. So just give it a minute and make sure everybody's okay. Do you find when you go to a restaurant, you always end up ordering the same type of meal? I've tried to make a habit when I go to a restaurant, I have to try something new, something new. And it doesn't matter. It can just be a chain restaurant or it can be somewhere fantastic like Michael's Back Door. But I've got to eat something I haven't had before in some way, shape, or form. And sometimes it's the alcoholic beverage I have. I'm not going to lie. But sometimes it's something really delicious. I have actually tasted, sorry for all those people who are humanitarians, but I've had turtle, tortoise, and that's how I did it. I had to eat something new. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Hopefully your mushrooms are cooling on a plate. Here we go.
Next thing, I'm going to do the exact same thing with the spinach. See, you're going to put a little bit of onion. A little bit of garlic.
The same amount, about a table?
A little bit less on this one.
Okay.
You want it more for the mushroom, and then a little bit for the spinach because we're still going to layer it together with the dish. So same thing, you're just going to sweat that out until it's a little bit translucent. And now you're going to add your spinach. Now your spinach, you don't want to overcook, but basically what we're doing is just wilting it in the pan. Okay, so you're going to add it to your pan.
How much spinach?
Just like 2 cups. Because when you cook the spinach down, it's going to take a lot.
And the whole time you're doing this, the sauce is simmering.
Sauce is simmering. So same thing, a little pinch of salt, a little pinch of pepper. And that's it. As soon as you see your spinach breaking down, you're ready to go.
And not long at all, right?
Have our cooked ingredients.
Okay, I'm just going to give it a quick pause here just to make sure everybody gets their spinach all done. I love spinach, but I must admit I've never done it in a frying pan like that. So hopefully everybody, actually it strikes me that as much as this is a lovely meal out and everything else, I mean, spinach and mushrooms and salmon, it's pretty healthy. All right, here we go. We're going to keep going. Let me know if you need me to pause again. Okay, everybody?
How long do they cool for, Mark?
You should let it get cold, basically.
Yeah.
It should be quite cool. Puff pastry is kind of not necessarily a delicate pastry, but it's a very buttery pastry. Okay, so it's a lot of butter folded into it, so you don't want anything hot when you're working with it. And even when you are working it, you can get puff pastry at the store. It's like very, frozen section. Basically, you're gonna let it defrost, and then you're gonna work with it right away because you don't want it too soft and mushy.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess we're just waiting.
Okay, so
for cool down.
yeah, wait for cool down. But while we're waiting, can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Now you mentioned that you're using cast iron. Do you recommend stainless steel or non-stick? Is there one that you prefer?
In the restaurant world, we use almost all stainless steel, but I do like to use non-stick also, and I use non-stick at home.
Okay.
It's a great utensil. It's a great pan.
Right.
So I use both technically.
Is there a particular brand of either that you recommend?
In this sense, you don't necessarily have to buy an expensive brand. You can find something that's a great pan without, spending a fortune. Yeah, without breaking the bank. You just have to do a little bit of research and look into stuff. I prefer a pan that has a stainless steel handle,
Okay.
so that way we can just put it into the oven. Okay, you want one that can take high temperature. You want one that's still dishwasher safe.
Right.
Things like that. You're just gonna have to do some research and
Well,
find out what you
that's
like.
a great tip for sure. Okay, so you're using a lot of onions. How do you chop onions without your eyes watering like crazy?
Okay, that happens to everybody.
Does it? Okay.
Yes, that even happens to chefs. But what we do is if you have a well ventilated area, that helps a lot. And the other thing is if your knife is sharp. When your knife is not sharp, what happens is you crush the onion and you let those juices in the air, and that's what bothers you. So if
Okay.
your knife is sharp, you'll get a nice clean cut and you'll send less juice up into the air.
Oh, okay, that's great. Now talking about knives, is there a tool that you recommend for sharpening your knives, or a place that you can go to get your knives sharpened?
Places to go, I'm not really sure, but I actually have a dry stone. So for me, for my knives, like I have a set of Wusthof Trident, which is a German knife,
Okay.
and they're very high end. I'm not saying that everybody has to have them, but I bought them. So I use a dry stone to sharpen these blades.
Okay.
It's very simple. You don't have to like oil it or anything.
And how often do you sharpen your knives?
Usually, not too often actually. Depends if my teenagers use them or not. But usually it's once like every 3 months or so. Where if I feel the blade is dull, then I'll bring out the stone.
Oh, okay. That's great tips. Thank you. So how's the sauce doing?
The sauce is almost done. It's ready to go. You can see it's like simmering nicely. Yeah. So you just want to reduce it. You can still see it's a little loose in its consistency. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to reduce it to the thickness of the sauce that you want.
Okay.
It's pretty much ready to go until we add our dill. But you're not going to add the dill until later because you don't want to discolor that. You just want to get that nice flavor. And then when you put the dill in, almost like when you're ready to serve, it'll give you that vibrant green as it cooks.
Wow.
Okay? So now
I don't think I've ever sharpened mine up. They're gonna.
yeah,
But I think that's probably why I cry so much when I cut onions. Because
It
I
is,
really
because
need
it's
to
dull.
sharpen my knife.
if you're cutting your onion and you hear that kind of crunching noise, your knife is done.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
get a crunch.
If this goes through smooth, then you have a nice blade. Like we usually have a steel, actually. And how we use this is we take our knife and then we just run it along the blade of the steel.
Right.
Okay, and what this does,
Oh, very gently, eh?
yeah, you don't have to go hard. It's what it does is it takes off like little burrs and imperfections on the blade. It's not sharpening your blade, but what it does is it does clean your blade so that when you do cut something, it's a little bit more sharp. And that's all you have to do. You run it over a couple times, and then your blade should be ready to go. If it's really dull, that is when you need the stone.
Okay.
That's such a. Wow. Things I'm learning. Let me tell you.
That's the joy of cooking, though, right?
No, it is. Because you
You're-
can learn so much. By the way, my mushrooms never look like that. I just did mushrooms last night with, chicken and peppers and everything for. I think I just overdo everything
Yeah.
because I feel like I don't know if it's cooked enough. Like as an amateur, like I'm just think that's what I think I always do.
Yeah. I actually think people mostly undercook mushrooms because that's how you.
Oh no, I just
still
smoked
like.
a pepper off last night. Oh no, it wasn't an undercook.
Yeah, it was overcooked.
Yeah.
Well, you can remember some things too, like because mushrooms have a lot of water in them.
Right.
If you want, when you start cooking them, salt, and then when you put that pinch of salt, like how I did in the beginning, that actually dries the moisture out. So then you have more control when you're cooking mushrooms.
Oh yeah, because I've never done that.
So it's like when you see people when they're like grilling zucchini or dry roasting those things, they salt it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because it pulls the moisture out.
Okay.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I should have recorded that.
So
That was really
you said
interesting.
about chicken last night. A question someone had was, a grilled chicken in a restaurant is always juicier than they cook at home.
Yeah.
Is there a secret that you guys have?
Not really. The only thing that I'm going to say about that is that Probably they're overcooking the chicken. Probably the heat of their grill is too high. So they're not cooking at an even temperature. And then the other thing too is that we always let our meats rest. And letting your meat rest, even chicken, goes a long way. So what happens is when you cook the meat, all the proteins condense up, and then all the juices are pushed to the center of the meat. So when you let that meat relax, those juices flow back out to the rest of the meat, and then you can just heat it up when you're ready to serve it. It's the same technique. People use it for steaks, but you can use it for all meats.
Okay, so when you reheat something, do you not worry about making
Overcooking it.
dry at all?
That's what I'm saying. It's also part of the practice of you cooking, right?
Right.
So if you're gonna keep it on the grill and then you're gonna cook it right to the very end, you're already making it dry and already overcooking it. But if you cook it to where it's almost done, let it relax, and if you're about to serve it, reheat it and send it out. It won't be dry. Yeah.
These things you never knew.
That's great.
So the same thing, just like we're letting our salmon relax now, it'll be better to control when I bake it.
Interesting.
So the sauce is technically done. A little loose, but we're gonna let it cool down, and as it cools down, because it's mostly cream, it's gonna thicken up a bit.
Okay.
Okay, so by the time we set up the Wellington, that should be ready to go.
Perfect.
Right? Okay, so when you're ready to go, and then you can put it on. As long as you hear that noise, it's good to go. And then we're just gonna let it sear. Now, most people usually when they're cooking, they like to shake the pan and do all that stuff. Just let it do its job. Let that salmon cook. You can adjust it if you're scared. This is where a non-stick
Okay,
pan
guys,
would
we're
be
recapping the searing
beneficial.
just in
Like
case
we use
you
cast iron, but
didn't get it
we're used
done.
to it. So you can see the fish doesn't stick at all. So we're gonna get that a little bit golden. Let that sear up. And basically, you don't want to
Whoopsie.
cook this all the way through because you're still gonna put it in the oven and bake it later. Later bake it. So you're gonna flip it. You can see it's got that nice color, nice smooth texture. And I'm gonna sear that. And then as soon as that's done, we're gonna put it back on our plate and let that cool. Okay, so that's ready
While
to
your
go.
food is cooling, you're not meant to get really drunk though on the wine, okay, guys?
And now we're gonna saute our mushrooms.
Let's go forward here because I think we're seeing the same thing twice.
Okay, that set up the Wellington. That should be ready to go.
Perfect.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna put the puff pastry right here.
Okay.
I'm just gonna roll it out.
Chat out the way.
You're gonna put a little bit of flour down.
Okay, so we let all the ingredients cool, right?
Yes, all the ingredients are cold, ready to go. You're gonna take a little bit of flour, just dust it on your surface. See that?
Yep, I'm gonna just move this down a bit so people can see that.
And you're gonna take your sheet of puff pastry. Now, the size of the sheet of what you're using is based on the size of whatever you're wrapping with it. So if you have a smaller piece of salmon, you're not going to need this much puff pastry.
Okay.
Okay. Basically, just going to cut it in two. Roll out the sheet. size that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Same thing with the other sheet. Now you can do this on any surface. You can do it on a wood surface or a stainless steel surface. That's up to you.
Okay.
Really good about that surface.
So you didn't put flour on the rolling pin or anything,
Nope,
just on
the dusting
surface?
surface.
Okay.
And that's pretty much all I'm doing. Now you're gonna take a little bit of this mushroom. So we cooked our mushroom and we chopped it up. You're gonna put that down as your base. Now, when you see mushroom done like this in the culinary world, it's called duxelle. So if ever you look up another recipe and they say mushroom duxelle, this is basically what you do.
Okay.
Next, we're gonna take our salmon. We're gonna lay it on top of the mushroom. You're gonna put the face side up and then the skin side going this way because we're gonna invert it.
Okay.
Then you're gonna take your spinach. Lay that on the salmon. And that'll be the base of your dish. And now you're gonna take your pastry. If you need to, you can trim it. And you're just gonna fold it. Till it's completely enclosed. Like that. Shape of Wellington to the shape of your beef. If you're doing it with beef, it would be a nice round beef corneau. But
Okay.
because we're doing it with the salmon, it's gonna be long. Okay. Then you're gonna put it on your baking sheet. I put parchment paper down. Parchment paper is a great tool for cooking in any kitchen, home kitchens or anything. It stops everything from sticking and from burning.
Okay.
Now we're gonna take a little bit of egg wash, and we're just gonna baste the pastry like that. You want it well coated, just like when you're doing breads or anything like that. You want to get that nice shine on the pastry.
So when you say egg wash, like a couple eggs beat up,
Yep, just a couple eggs, just whisk them up,
come up and
break them down until it's nice and smooth, and that's it.
perfect.
Okay, it's coated nicely. Now you're gonna put it in the oven. You're gonna bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes at about 400, 425.
Okay.
Now, obviously that depends on your oven at home. You may have to go a little bit longer, a little bit less. That's up to you. But basically what you want is you want your pastry fully cooked and you want that nice golden brown.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna put it in the oven. And then we're just gonna let that bake.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep. Now for
I don't know about you guys, but I struggle with pastry. So I'm just going to give everybody a minute to make sure that their pastry is well wrapped around their salmon. I have a history of ripping mine into shreds as I try to wrap things. So let's just give it all a minute. I watched my son today use he works at McDonald's of all places, and he wrapped something up in a wrap, and he did it absolutely perfect the way you would at a restaurant. And I just sat there looking at him in awe. This is Chef Mark. I love the tips he had for us. I never actually realized that I cry a lot when I cut the onions, more so than most people, because my knives are dull. I didn't even think of that. I don't think I've ever in my entire life sharpened a knife. So that was a really, really great tip. And definitely about, I didn't realize about the juices in meats or in proteins. Do you have to let it sit for a while and then reheat it to warm it up in order for it to be nice and juicy? That's really great information. So there we go. I'm certainly no I'm certainly no chef the way he is, but maybe my chicken won't be so dry. All right. I think everybody should have their salmon well wrapped, and we're going to keep going, guys.
For heat source, do you prefer gas or electric?
Work is always gas.
Okay.
I have an electric stove at home just because that's the stove that I have. But if you're gonna say anything electric, it heats up almost instantly. Gas, you're gonna have more control over it. Okay, so gas, I can put it very low and simmer it. You know, it's great for doing like a big giant pot of tomato sauce or something like that. But if you have an electric stove at home, that's just as adequate.
Okay, now there's also electric that can be convection. Do you recommend convection ovens?
Like an induction?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good for like say if you have a place where you can't get gas. An induction works just fine. You need to have a stainless steel pot for that,
Okay.
but it works same thing, just like electric. It'll come to heat very fast. It's less dangerous actually because the surface area doesn't get hot.
Right.
So I do like cooking with induction, but you know, it's more for me as like a portable use. So I have to do it someplace where I don't have my stove set up and everything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. So you said 20 to 25 minutes for that?
Yeah, 20, 25 minutes. It'll cook out. And then, like I said, you can even check it once your pastry is at like that nice golden brown. It should be ready to go.
Awesome.
That's it.
Okay, so we'll come back when it's in 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's ask you some questions.
Yeah, well, no, just because I'm like literally, I'm here to see it. So Mark, what would be your all-time favorite thing to make in a kitchen?
To make, I really love braising. I'm really good at braising items. I love the idea of slow, long cooking periods. So one thing that I do that I'm fond of is I do a braised short rib. And sometimes you run it on the menu here as a special, but that's pretty much one of my favorite things.
Very good. And what tool, is there like certain tools that every kitchen should have?
It depends how long you're in your kitchen. If you're going to be in your kitchen and you want to be making some grandiose meals, then you should have a good mixer and a good blender. Definitely a knife, French knife goes a long way. To me, that's the most versatile tool right there. You can basically do anything with it. Anything that a blender does, you can do with that French knife.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you can because you're professional.
You know, oh, the chopping veggies.
Oh, yeah, someone asked, how do you chop veggies with your fingers curled away from it, but still hold on to it?
Still hold on to it. Okay. This is why this knife is so good. The reason that this knife is designed this way is exactly for that kind of chopping. That's why this part of the blade is called the choll. It's so wide.
Okay.
It's so that whenever this part you got to get practice with.
Okay.
That's only because we've been doing it our whole lives.
Right.
We're used to it. So for you as a beginner, you're going to hold on to something, curl your knife and put it against the blade. That's why this blade is so high, so that no matter what you do, it never goes past your finger. Okay? Even the design of the blade is you keep the tip down, it's got that curve, so it's a lever. So it does all the work for you. So you don't have to lift it off of the cutting board. You just keep it down like that, keep your finger against it, and then no matter how fast you're going, you'll never cut yourself because the blade won't go past your finger. You don't even have to look at it. You look away.
Wow,
That's the whole design of that.
smart.
But it is something that you have to get comfortable with, and it is something that you have to practice. All things practice makes perfect.
Right.
I'd like to say right now that Barrett Realty Advantage
do
and
you
the
have
Haddon
any,
Forest Home team is not responsible for any dismembered fingers.
Do you have any vegan items on your menu here?
We do actually. We have a rapini and bean dish,
Okay.
and we don't really have, like, we can do like a risotto, any of those kind of things. Most of our soups are vegan. We don't have them as per se, like to say that that's a vegan item, but we can make anything vegan. So any of those customers call ahead or something, we don't just give them grilled vegetables and pasta. You know what I mean? We
Right.
try to make it a little bit nicer,
Okay.
especially because they don't get that too often.
Right.
So
So,
things like that.
so for people that are vegan that cook at home, what is a great substitute for eggs that you can put in your cooking or baking?
That too also actually depends on what they're cooking. If they're baking, then they should actually, look up a proper egg substitute. And you can find them, like Red Mill has a product that does that same kind of thing. But if you're just doing like regular cooking and stuff like that, you can use flaxseed, you can use chia seed, you can even use the liquid that they put in cans of chickpea. If you save that liquid, it acts very much like an egg substitute. Yeah, so you can actually even make like meringue out of it. So it works the same way.
Interesting.
These are new. Has it been 20 minutes?
I have no idea.
I'm just gonna get golden brown now. You can see it. I'm just gonna spin it around so that you can see it.
Is that something you do with when baking?
For us, because we usually bake on masse, so our trays are like really large, like they fill up the whole oven. So not too often, but if I was at home, yes, I would rotate things. You should, just like cooking. If you're cooking potatoes, roast potatoes, you should flip them.
Yes,
Like that.
I always do
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
always do that.
So I gotta ask a question. Okay. You're a professional chef. Do you use a microwave at home?
Rarely. Only to heat things up. I rarely cook with a microwave. Yeah. I love the oven. You have more control with an oven. Microwave is based on the microwave. It's a certain format or radiation, so it may not cook evenly as you like, even though the thing is spinning. That's why I personally like braising, because you have a lot more control over that item when you're cooking with it. I know most people don't have time at home these days to cook, and that's the main reason for like fast food and stuff like that. But if you plan stuff like that, like if you have like the French have a term called mise en place, and all it means is everything in its right place. And if you have your mise en place ready to go, then cooking is actually a lot more fun than you think.
And you can do it a lot quicker than
You can do it a lot quicker, yeah. If you get your prep stuff done, the cooking time is actually nothing. Like even now, we're just waiting for it to cook. So if this was a regular day, I would already be doing something else while I was waiting for that. Okay. So actually, we can probably finish that up. So while that's in the oven, I'm just going to add a little bit of dill to the sauce. Okay, so I have some like fresh chopped dill here. And the reason that I waited to put this in the sauce is because you want this flavor, you want that nice, vibrant, scent of the dill to come out, and you don't want it discolored. You don't want it to like break down and be colored. So all you have to do is add that at the end, and you'll get everything you want out of that.
And how much dill is that?
This was just I would say maybe 2 tablespoons.
Okay.
Or 1 small bunch chopped up. Okay. Just gonna stir that in. And another way that you guys can test whether your sauce is ready to go is you can take a spoon and you can pour it off of your spoon. And if you see that it clings to the spoon,
Mhm.
your sauce is almost ready. Okay?
Oh,
Just doesn't run off the spoon so quickly, that means it's not loose. It's actually got some texture to it. So this sauce is actually almost pretty much where we want it to be. Okay, it's like horrible, but it's not straight line. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. So check on our second one. Nice golden brown.
so good.
You want to make sure the pastry is cooked all over, so that it's an even texture. And then you can even see like if it's cooked underneath or not. You have that nice golden brown texture underneath,
Yep.
so it's pretty much ready to go. And the beauty of the smoked salmon is you don't really necessarily have to overcook it because you know you can have salmon a little under. It doesn't
Right.
have to be overcooked.
Right.
necessarily. So we're just gonna let that relax. And then in the meantime, I prepped a couple of plates just for the presentation. I just blanched a little bit of asparagus. Um, you can put anything you want with it. That's the beauty of this dish.
Okay.
The starch is almost your pastry, so you don't really need. But you can put potato, you can put whatever. We're keeping this one very simple, so I just did a little bit of cherry tomato. The asparagus I cooked ahead of time.
How do you prefer your asparagus?
Just some boiling water, a little bit of salt, and what we do is we dip it in the water until it's just this nice golden brown, and then we take it out and then we cool it, so we don't like cook it all the way, and then so that when you're ready to serve it, then we just reheat it again, and then that's how it doesn't lose color and it won't lose any of its nutrients and things like that.
Right.
Okay? So just gonna take your pastry. Now, when it's this large, you can carve it into three. You can just cut it in half for however you want to do it. You know, the presentation is up to you and what you feel that you want to do. I just want to check. It's still a little bit under. So we're just going to put it back and put it back in the oven and let it go a touch longer. So if you feel that like that, you've opened it and you know, don't think it's ruined, don't think it's, you just have to cook it out longer. It has nothing to do with damaging the dish.
Okay.
So we're just gonna let that go for maybe another 5 more minutes.
So I guess with the
I always wonder, actually, to tell you the truth, like even when you get chicken stuff, like you know, because I'm never sure if it's like
Yeah.
good enough. Like you know, am I ruining it by putting it back?
No, not at all. Especially something like that because the pastry is
Right.
almost like protecting it from cooking, right? So this is why I also say like based on a certain temperature, based on your oven at home, it's all going to be different. And always remember that no matter what you do, a recipe is just a guideline. You know, you're not ruining it if it doesn't come out exactly the same. It's trial and error, and that's what makes cooking fun, basically, because you're playing around. You know, you asked me that question earlier if I,
yeah.
you know, made my own recipes. I do my own recipes, but I also come across another recipe and say, oh, you know what, that's a great idea, but if I would like you to say I did this because I don't like that. You know, so you can interchange things. You can make it how you want it to be, and that's honestly how chefs, you know, keep coming up with new ideas. They just take old ideas and revigorate them. So,
Put their own spin on it.
they put their own spin.
Yeah.
So that's like I said, that's the fun of cooking. It's you're always learning something. It's always changing. You're never stuck in one format.
Right. So with COVID, are you missing dressing the plates because you're only doing takeout, right?
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
one of my favorite things to do is to do plate presentations.
Yeah.
You know, you do see with your eyes first, and everybody loves to see that like fancy dish coming to them. So I do miss that. It is one of the hardships that we're going through right now in these times. But at the same time, it's also a challenge doing takeout because we are fine dining, so it's a little different for us.
Mhm.
We're not set up quite the same way. But I guess we've taken on those challenges to at least be somewhat busy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love going to a fine restaurant and the presentation is just so nice. It's like a work of art.
It's like a work of art, exactly.
Yeah.
It's creative, and you know, the fantastic thing about that is we can have the same dish, and I can make it look one way, and you can make it look one way, and you can make it look a completely different way,
Right.
and each one is acceptable. Each one is, you know, like you said, a work of art on its own.
Yeah.
That's the other fantastic thing about cooking.
Mark, do you get any presentation at home at all?
Actually, when I cook at home, I try to do it the exact same.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I try to make it. You know, my wife works hard, and she's usually there by herself. You know, with all our teenagers, so she has to deal with them, and I don't. But when I do cook at home, on those rare occasions, I try to make it look good. Yeah.
That's nice,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
I do like presentation too, but
It's like a table setting as well,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Setting the table in a really
at
nice
home,
way.
exactly, at home.
You have
I like
candles, and
having-
you want the.
exactly.
Yeah. Like, I love that. I
Joe
love
will be
that.
like, why don't you just leave it in the glass? No, I have to put it in the glass dish. Like I like to have everything laid out in a dish with the proper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we're doing like, you know, pasta, everything has to be. I like certain. Yeah.
For sure. Like even because we're obviously Valentine's Day, we're gonna do takeout only. Like, I don't think we'll be
Right.
open. So a couple of the items next week, Sam is gonna like. We're gonna put them in the takeouts, but then they're gonna film like how to take it out and present it on the plate in certain
Oh,
ways if
that's
you want
right,
to try,
yeah.
Nice.
just so that they can do it themselves
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah,
To have the nice presentation.
Yeah,
To,
you know, you don't
because that is part of
It
the
does make a
experience.
difference.
Yeah.
exactly, you know,
Yeah.
on a regular basis, that would be one of our busiest days, right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
would be jam packed. So
That,
now
you guys, Mother's Day and New Year's are just kind of, you
yeah,
guys do really well with
those are our days. Yeah,
Mother's
those
Day.
are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad this past year, and hopefully it ends soon. But,
Well, fingers crossed.
all right, so now we're gonna take our salmon Wellington out of the oven. It is nicely golden brown now.
So delicious.
Oh yeah, see, I see a difference.
Yeah, you can see the pastry.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Like certain ovens, you're gonna base it on your oven and how long you want to go. You want the pastry fully cooked, but you know this dish doesn't have to be all that way. For this one, we are just gonna cut it in half. You can see now the salmon is completely cooked.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to make the portion this big. You can cut your salmon down to size.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
And that we're just gonna drizzle around. That's the dish.
Wow, that looks so nice.
Because mine looks like that. There we go. Salmon Wellington. That is just spectacular. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to stop share. Hold on a second here, everybody. I'm just saying, so mine looks exactly like that. Yeah, exactly like that. Actually, he gave really great step-by-step instructions. I'm really quite impressed with that. Oh, here we got a couple of comments here. Let me just get to the chat. You know, at the end of the day, everybody, I just really hope, here we go, better, thank you. Let's see, what else have we got down?
Okay, so I did it.
Oh, there's Marika. Marika's, that is, so Marika's husband, Stefan, actually, this is his restaurant, Michael's Back Door. And honestly, I don't know about you, but boy, do I ever miss fine dining restaurant like that. And I will be knocking down their door if I tell you my kids better make arrangements. My birthday is coming up. They better make arrangements for takeout from there because that looked delicious. And Chef Mark, thank you so much for his time and for his explanations. I'm not a cook. I burn rice, like I said before. But he really broke it down for us. So I really hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're having a wonderful time with your loved ones over Valentine's Day and Family Day again on Monday. And please let us know if there's anything we can do just to bring a smile to your day while we're all sort of stuck at home or doing these alternative things. And by all means, reach out to me when this is all over and let's do something fun together because as I said, I really firmly believe that we're all better off and we'll all get through this better together. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Claire and Jody for the recording. Thank you for Stefan for giving us access to his, not Stefan, oh my goodness, Anthony, for giving us access to his restaurant. And thank you to Chef Mark for taking the time. I know it's very busy with all the takeout orders you have, and please support local. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your support. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I'll send you the recording as soon as I can. It'll be done really soon. Okay, thanks so much. Bye, everybody.